Hi, my name's Cameron, or just Cam. For the last 5 years, I've had a very specific dream. I've had this idea for something I want to do. I wanted to one day take myself up to the northernmost point you can go by roads in North America, to a town called Deadhorse in Alaska, and then to cycle a tandem bicycle as far south as roads will take you, down to a town called Ushuaia at the southern tip of Argentina. In addition to the tandem bike, I thought I'd also carry all the camping gear, cooking gear and other stuff that's needed to support a second person. So the idea being essentially anyone can jump on with just the clothes on their back. Then from there, hopefully I'll just really kind of meet people along the way and they can jump on for a day or a week or a month or as long as they'd like, and bring along any of their own stuff that they'd like in a separate bag that I've got for them as well. So after thinking about every aspect of this trip for years, I realised that I'd slowly amassed enough gear to actually do it.
You want a lift, Cambo? Oh my lord! Hurry up, Cam, we're taking over.
All that was left now was to book tickets. So it was on, all booked for June 13th of 2020. And so long as there was a plane to take me there, nothing was going to stop me.
Victoria will be in lockdown within the next 48 hours. Here are the latest developments.
Today, people in the Perth metropolitan area and the Peel region have entered their first full day of lockdown, following the serious situation.
The US has now recorded more than 1 million COVID-19 cases.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents.
So 2020 was not to be, and I hit pause on the whole idea. I kept up my work, but also took a job as a university lecturer. I got right into trail running and managed to accomplish a goal that I'd had for a long time, which was to run 100 miles in one hit. It took me over 40 hours in the end and was incredibly difficult, but I'm absolutely stoked I managed to get that done. I had some fun learning some new skills like slacklining, and I joined a swing dancing performance team as well. I got way into board games, probably a bit too much so, but then all of a sudden it's now 2022 and it's nearly the Alaskan summer again. So once again, I got my tickets for exactly 2 years after they were originally booked, now for June 13th of 2022, and it was on. Finally, I came up with a name for this project, which I've called the Random Tandem. So here is the approximate route that I'll be taking while I'm away. And over this route there'll be a handful of tricky things that I encounter, the main one being the distance. The entire distance is around 30,000 kilometres in total, which I expect to take somewhere around a year and a half. But then a bit more specifically, in Alaska and Canada, I can't deny that I'm a little nervous about bears and other big animals, so I'll be cycling around with a little can of bear spray close at hand. It's kind of like pepper spray. Then in the US, I'm really keen on trying to cross the Rocky Mountains between Colorado and California. I've heard some people go around the bottom to avoid crossing, and that's even in a car, so I don't really know what to expect on a bike, but I'll give it a good crack. This one is maybe the most bizarre. North America and South America as continents are connected by land, but they're not quite connected by road. Down here between Panama and Colombia is a 200 kilometre wide area known as the Darien Gap. Now, through here, there are not only no roads, but there are not any established paths of any kind to get through. My first idea was to hike through here and push my bike along. But then I very quickly found out that is one of the most dangerous places you can go, and so it's best not to. So my current plan is to jump on board a boat somewhere around the bottom section of Panama and then head down to Colombia that way. Then there's the Andes Mountains. This is where things will definitely slow to a crawl because the elevation just gets really quite crazy, especially on some pretty tricky roads as well. And finally is the bottom third of South America. Not many people live down there and not many of those speak English, so I'll really need to be practicing my Spanish on the way too. But then finally there's the part that I found myself thinking about the most, because it's right up here at the very beginning, which is in order for me to start from the northernmost point that is accessible by roads, which is the town of Deadhorse, I'll need to then travel around 850 kilometers back to Fairbanks in Alaska via the Dalton highway. This is one of the main filming locations for ice road truckers, And this highway is just one single road. It has no houses, no taps for water, no food stops, no nothing, with the exception of 2 small little truck stops in places called Coldfoot and Yukon. Now, I really wanted to start this trip off right by finding someone to join me on this journey down the Dalton. So I went to this website called Warm Showers that's essentially about cyclists hosting other cyclists, and I sent nearly everyone in the city of Fairbanks a pretty similar message. Most of them gave me a pretty similar response. Hello Cam, you sound like an adventurous guy. However, the coronavirus has... I'm not committing to any trips this summer as I think it's pretty unlikely I'd be able to join you on the Robin and I are way too risk averse to bike the Dalton at all, except for this one friendly chap called Danny.
Sam, that is an absolutely legendary idea. Really amazing. I would be both stoked and honored to help you kick off your trip in Alaska, and it would be the perfect opportunity for me to ride the section of road from Prudhoe to Fairbanks, as I've always wanted to but never made the time. My good buddy, who's also...
Despite me becoming a Sam, it was on. I had the bike, I had the gear, and I had someone to join me, and now I'd quit my job too. So in seemingly no time at all, the big day came. So I made it to Fairbanks, where I was met at the airport by the smiling face of Danny.
I'm Danny Egan, I'm 26 and I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska.
We were both stoked to finally meet, except I was also really worried about something that had happened en route. It happened during a layover in LA when I was waiting for my bike at the oversized baggage collection area, except it never came and it had been lost. So I submitted all the right baggage claim forms, yet despite this, Qantas couldn't tell me where it was or if it was on the way or anything. One customer service person even told me that the bike was delivered several days ago and that the case had been closed, so it was a pretty stressful time.
It's a bike?
Correct, yes, it's a bike. Still, there wasn't much that I could do, so I spent a few days in Fairbanks looking around town. I saw the famous Magic Bus where Chris McCandless lived out his final months. I ran in the midnight sun run, and I spent some time on the river with Danny and his mates. On day 8 of the trip, it finally arrived. So I showed Danny the ropes of how to ride a tandem bike, which rides a little different to a normal bike, and after a couple more days, word had gotten around through Danny's family of what we were up to, and we quickly found ourselves on the front page of the local paper. A moment later, and it was our big day. I celebrated the occasion by doing something I very quickly regretted a moment later. Then we packed our bags and we were off. First flying down to Anchorage and then the final flight up to the tippy top at Dead Horse. At this point I'd now taken 6 flights to get from Perth to Dead Horse, and funnily enough my bike had taken 7 because somewhere in that weird diversion it got taken over to Maui in Hawaii. But anyway, we were finally there. Dead Horse really earns its name because it really feels like it's at the end of the earth. There's very little colour beyond the occasional splash of a high visibility yellow, and anything taller than your knees is either man-made or a wild animal. It's not particularly appealing to the eye, but it feels like the right place to start. It feels like there's really not much else around. Some people kind of say good luck to us with a bit of excitement, and others say good luck like we're kind of damned fools walking off into oblivion. So yeah, we'll see who's right, but anyway. We assembled the bike under the watch of a handful of oil workers. After that, we made a stop at the Dead Horse General Store in town, which is where most of these mammoth journeys officially begin and end. And we got to the famous sticker wall, and from looking at everyone's stickers, I was pretty proud to see that I was one of the very few that was doing it on a bicycle as opposed to a motorbike, and certainly the only one that I can find that is doing it on a tandem bike. So from there wasn't really much else to do except to cycle the first kilometre of what will be this massive journey. During this first section of road, I couldn't stop thinking of something that I'd calculated on the plane ride over, which is that if I was going to point my finger directly at my end location in Ushuaia, I should first point south and then point 62 degrees beneath the horizon. That really made it set in just how far I was trying to go. But then 15 kilometres outside of Dead Horse, something really bizarre happened.
So, well, we made it about 10 miles out of Dead Horse, and Cam was rummaging through a bag there and realized that we did not have any petrol for our camp stove, which was one of 2 things that we needed in town. So, made a quick dash back, and then we came back to our bags, and somebody had dropped off some petrol for us. We're not quite sure how or why that happened. It was a bit late, but
Yeah.
2 liters of free petrol.
Which is like exactly how much we needed.
Yeah.
That was just sitting there by our bags, straight down there. We didn't talk to anyone about it really either, so I don't know how they knew that we needed petrol, but someone just had a sixth sense.
Someone's looking out for us.
Yeah.
Hope we stick around.
I've heard that on trips like this you'll sometimes come to find the exact thing you're after in a moment of need, but I can't say I expected it to happen on the first day of cycling. So now we actually had everything we needed and we got back to it. The roads were pretty long and endless, and the smooth pavement quickly gave way to gravel. Lots of trucks passed us each day, but they always gave us plenty of room, and some even stopped to offer us food and water. It didn't take us long to get into the swing of cycling and camping each day, and as the kilometres ticked away, I came to know Danny quite well. What do you love about the Alaskan wilderness that you don't get anywhere else?
I think what I love most about it is the separation that you can get from people and places that, people, and it's not even just other structures, and I don't know, it sounds a bit hokey to say civilization, like it's not like you're totally leaving civilization, but in a way you kind of are. I mean, even in the lower 48 where they have these great national parks and places, there are very few places I would say that you could just kind of pull over in a pull-off and leave your car there for the weekend and not worry about it, and you go up and go backpacking for 3 days and not see anybody else. Come back, there's no ticket on your windshield, nobody's broken into your car. I really like having that access and kind of the ability to choose your own adventure. You don't necessarily have to find a trailhead where other people are going to be congregating, or where there's a map. You can just go off and choose something that you want to explore and go do it. But it stays light all day long, and so you don't really have to punctuate your adventures or your days just based on the light. You can kind of switch things around if you want and go all through the night or not. But it's always an option, and maybe you experience this, but the warmth too. I think a lot of people don't expect it to be warm here, but it does get quite warm. And so it's really pleasant. I mean, people think that we're just up here freezing all year, but it's pretty idyllic in the summer, I think.
By day 16 of the trip, which was our third day of cycling, we were well and truly into the mountains, and I'd learnt that riding downhill on a tandem can be really difficult when the amount of brake pressure needed to bring such a heavy bike to a stop is so high. So I found myself often stopping just to shake out my hands from all the pressure. Sorry, I need to rest my hands. That's really brutal. But the real difficulty we encountered came from this one single truck, because to prevent trucks from generating lots of dust, the road was regularly sprayed with water, which creates the infamous Dalton Highway mud. I'd read a lot about this mud before we began, and it lived up to its reputation, because it quickly sets into a clay that then bonded the wheels to the frame to the mud guards and just caused a real mess, and the wheels hardly even wanted to turn. There is so much, and it's completely buggered us up. We were pedaling for potentially kilometres with this mud acting like having the brakes on the entire time, and we were so bloody out of it that we didn't even realise. until Danny pointed out that we were pedalling down hills, and that was kind of the surefire red flag that something was wrong. What are you up to here, Danny?
Oh, same old, same old. Just got a wee bit of mud in the fenders here.
Yeah.
Only the stuff that didn't go on my legs, so it's not that much.
Your legs? As much as the mud and painful hands and long days made things difficult, there was still a lot to love. Alaska is incredibly beautiful, and everywhere you go, nature's footprint always feels larger than people's. During day 4 on the road, we had a couple of cars pull over and say they recognised us from the paper. Then later that day, we ran into some friends, and a short time later, we joined them for a much needed warm meal in Coldfoot. Hello! The next 4 days after Coldfoot were really tough. I'm not sure we encountered a single flat piece of road anywhere within that stretch, and we would often find ourselves having dinner and then riding through till around midnight, which was certainly one big advantage of the sun never setting when you're at latitudes that far north. With 3 days to go, we crossed the Arctic Circle, and then with 2 days to go, took a much needed swim in the Yukon River. Those final 2 days were incredibly difficult and really pushed us to a point of massive exhaustion. I feel bizarre. I feel like my head's spinning. That was insanely hard. That was as hard of a section as I expect to encounter in a year and a half. Occurred on day 7 of our cycling. Oh my god, we've got no water left. We just went up more hills than I can't think of analogies right now. And look at you, my friend. You're just as much of a mess as me. But from this moment at the petrol station onwards, it was kilometre after kilometre of gentle downhill back to Fairbanks. Then when we were a few k's away from town, we were joined by a bit of a welcoming party that rode us all the way back. And then we were home. Well, Danny was anyway. For him, cycling the Dalton Highway was the completion of a bucket list item that he's wanted to do for years. For me it was that too, but it was still also less than 3% of my total distance complete, which was a really exciting but also quite intimidating thought. So that's where I am right now. I'm here in Fairbanks about to start this next leg of my journey, going south along some of the longer and quieter roads, eventually meandering my way to the Canadian border and then onwards to the south. Now, despite me having a whole bunch of flyers and other ways of trying to find people for the back seat, it looks like I'm going to do this next section on my own. Now, that's okay though. I'm actually really stoked to see this state that I've fallen in love with so much in my own pace, at my own time, with my own thoughts. And I don't really know what these next 18 months are going to have in store for me too. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of days that really suck, and hopefully a few more of the really great ones too. I just really hope that I can share this with as many people as I can, even if it's just for a 30-minute ride or a lap around your own city, or of course some bigger distance after that. So if you're at all interested in any way, please do reach out. I'd love to chat with you, even if you just got a few questions, and then hopefully meet with you and jump on the bike together as well. Thanks so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.
I might put some pesto on mine just because I forgot we had it.
Yeah,
Who
not a
knows?
bad idea.
Who knows if it'll be good,
Let's see how it
but
goes.
beyond carry.
It's calories. It's not very good at all.
I don't mind it. Almost tastes like hummus, but not.
No, that's mine. That one single piece.
Do not test me. I know people around here. I'll just hitchhike over. Just kidding.
I know the local bears.
The local bears.